I'm so excited to be joined by Karen Robinson. So, Karen, first of all, thanks for taking some time to come visit us. For those that may not know, famous actress, we'll call here. She's been in Schitt's Creek, and now she's in Law and Order Toronto Criminal Intent. So, Karen, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, Schitt's Creek. How much fun was it to work with that team and to be involved with such a great show?
It was like being paid to go to the best comedy school that money couldn't buy, because you can't pay for that. You can't pay for that kind of education. You just, it was priceless. It was priceless. It was fun. It was a daily tutorial in kindness and generosity and professionalism and popcorn, because Eugene Levy loves truffle popcorn, and I just feel like I was with royalty every day.
Well, and let's kind of go into that a little bit. So you were saying it's fun. Like, how hard was it to maintain composure while you were shooting the show? Because I can almost guarantee it was just laughter, laughter, laughter throughout the whole show.
I think, okay, for me, listen, I was just going from, going on their leadership. I was taking their cues, and they were actually really serious about it, believe it or not. They weren't in the business of trying to crack each other up. We all stuck pretty close to the script. I mean, when the script was written, there were, adjustments made. But once the final script got laid down, that was what you saw. That's what we filmed. And I think that especially the lead actors, well, all of them really, because it was such a wonderful ensemble, they all knew that comedy is best when people are telling the absolute truth in as deadpan a way as possible. So nobody was going for, like, the punchline or the, or we're trying to ham it up. No one was doing that. It was really about excellent writing and fantastic execution.
Well, and what I love about the show is that, it's we were talking about this just before we started our interview on how proud Canadians should be that we have these type of productions, because this show turned out to be huge in Canada, but now people in the United States are really drawing to this show and really embracing it as their own, honestly.
I spent a summer in New York a couple of years ago, and I could not walk down the street without somebody stopping me about Schitt's Creek. And it's not only the United States, it's as far as India. Like, there's I remember one time when, about the maybe 37th Indian National stopped me on the street somewhere. It could be Toronto, it could be in New York, it could be anywhere, and told me how much they loved the show. And I said to them, what is going on with Schitt's Creek in India? And the woman said to me, there are a lot of us in India. And I went, okay, you know what? That kind of explains it. But yeah, it's all over. I get messages from Australia, from the UK. My friends watch it down in Jamaica. It's everywhere.
Fantastic. And now you've transitioned, which is, I'm impressed on how you've been able to transition from a comedy that was so big to now a very serious show that is iconic for decades. And now it's nice to have a little bit of a Canadian spin on it with Law and Order.
It's a lot of a Canadian spin. And may I just say that in between Schitt's Creek and Law and Order, I did a show for CBC called Pretty Hard Cases, which also aired on Netflix, which people were also stopping me about in New York. It's and I was also very proud of that show because, it was women-led. It was another police procedural, but it had a comedy edge to it. It was, I loved doing that show. So yes, I did that show and then went into Law and Order right after that show. Thank God I got another job. So it's always so good when I get another job. Anyway, carry on.
Well, and we were talking about the writing in Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
And Dick Wolf is just an amazing mind. So what's it like to be able to work on a show that he's involved with and the crew that you have with you?
Well, the show is 100% Canadian. Our Law and Order Toronto Criminal Intent version of it is just a franchise of the Law and Order umbrella organization. But it's 100% Canadian, acted, directed, produced, written, crewed, 100%. So Dick Wolf works as a consultant, but those storylines and our references are 100% Canadian. And I love that.
Exactly, me
My
too.
God, we have great stories to tell in this country. I am so proud of this country, and I wish that we celebrated ourselves more. There are so many stories to tell, and we just need to make sure that we don't get lost in the fray because we're pretty close to a juggernaut of entertainment in the United States. But we are so particular, and we're so funny, and we're so varied from coast to coast. And I think that if we don't tell our own stories in our own way, it will be a great loss. And we need to not lose that, because I'm pretty sure that if we lose that, it's going to be really hard to get it back.
Oh, I 100% agree. And that's one thing that we don't really know, or we're not ones to step up on the soapbox and say, we're Canada, this is us, enjoy us. Mm-hmm. But the best thing is when people do see that, they can tell that this is Canada, this is us, let's enjoy us.
That's right. And shows like Schitt's Creek, like Kim's Convenience, like Sort of, and like Law and Order, believe it or not, would not exist if there weren't people out there insisting on telling Canadian stories. We wouldn't exist.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your story now.
Yeah.
Because, of course, having you here in Drumheller, and a lot of people have known your family here in our community for a long time. Mm-hmm. What's it like to say that, first of all, you have a great connection to our community, and coming back to Drumheller and some of the places that you worked at, for instance, are still here?
Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen is still here, and that was my first job when I came to Drumheller, was Dairy Queen in that brown polyester uniform. I don't know how I survived it, but I was really good at putting those curls on the top of those ice creams and sundaes.
It's probably nice just to come back to Drumheller and just to really embrace our little tiny town that you had an opportunity to live here.
You're not so tiny anymore, are ya?
I guess.
I mean, Drumheller has come into its own in a fantastic way. And I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing how much it's grown, but I enjoy that, the thing that you can't change really is the landscape. And it is so incredibly beautiful here that, I am, whenever I'm driving around, and I don't drive around very much because it takes 5 minutes to get everywhere. But anyway, I try to notice, I try to notice what I can. And on a beautiful spring day like today, I think to myself, my mother, who was like the pioneer of the family who moved here, these are the Drumheller days that my mother so loved, when the sun is shining and there is a light breeze, even though it gets a bit windy, and you can see everything clearly, and it's quiet, and people smile at you and say good morning, and I think she really loved that, and I love sort of walking in her footsteps around Drumheller.
Well, and the small town, being from a small town and growing up here, how has that helped you, do you think, in your connections in the acting industry? Have you taken a lot of that with you?
I think so, but I think I should adjust that idea about me growing up in a small town, because I actually didn't grow up here. I grew up in Jamaica, and I came here when I was 16. So there was some growing up that I did, but by then I was pretty well formed. But coming back, I think the thing that I noticed the most is when you're 16, your mind view of the world, it can be kind of outward. You think about where you want to go and what you want to do, right? And the object was always to go to Calgary to go partying, or to go to Calgary to go to school, or and then of course I went further. But coming back to Drumheller, because I still have family who live here, I am I am gobsmacked by the beauty of the place.
Yeah.
I really am. So many of my, the people I went to school with have moved away. Some have stayed, and a couple I've kept in touch with. But so, I have that, and I love coming back to that because it just sort of grounds you. But I think the thing that really leaves me breathless and speechless is what I didn't appreciate when I was 16, which is how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because I moved to Drumheller when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So another connection.
Another
there you
connection.
But so looking ahead now, you're going to continue, of course, on Law and Order. Another season is coming, which is fantastic.
Yes, I'm very confident about that. Yeah.
And do you have other ideas of where you're going to go, or is it just whatever happens type thing?
Look, I didn't know that Law and Order would happen, right? Like when Law and Order probably started. I probably was watching Law and Order when I was still coming back and visiting my parents. It never occurred to me that I would end up playing the Canadian version that Esapatha Murkison played in the original, But I just keep saying to myself, the dreams get bigger. And I may not even, my brain might not be able to even encompass what those dreams are, but Lord knows the universe has them in store. And I just try to stay open.
How do you stay grounded? That's my biggest thing, because you got to pinch yourself when you have, and...
Oh, it's pretty
tough.
easy. It's pretty easy when you come from my family. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, it's great to play dress up and do, all of the publicity and that sort of thing. But I come from hardworking, ambitious, faithful, people who are very connected to our Jamaican culture, and I can't help but be a member of that family, because you know what it is, I'm too lazy to be anything else. I cannot put the energy into trying to be anybody else's version of what they think a celebrity, and I'm doing that in air quotes.
Yeah.
A celebrity is supposed to be. I'm just a person who, wants to know what the next meal is going to be, and wants the raccoons not to, dig up the flowers that I plant in my front garden, and to get along with my neighbors. That's it. But really, life happens. I have, I lost my mother in 2020. That's very grounding. Right here in Drumheller, I was there at the health center holding her hand when she passed. So every time I drive by that place, I remember her. My father is here. My brother is here. I have to come back and make sure that they're okay from time to time. There is no celebrity in that. There is just love and familial responsibility and making mistakes and saying I'm sorry and trying to do better. That's how I stay grounded.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for taking some time and joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.